If you say to Mr. Y, if you say to Mr. X that you are a criminal, you have committed murder, you have committed rape, you have committed dacoity. So there is an imputation of criminal offense. So this type of slander is considered as actionable per se. It can be established without any evidence, without any proof. Point number two, if the defendant has made an imputation that the plaintiff suffers from a contagious disease such as leprosy, then it will be considered as actionable per se. If you see Mr. X, if you say Mr. X without any justification that oh Mr. X is suffering from leprosy or AIDS, etc., etc., then obviously the right to reputation will be injured by you, by your words, by your verbal words. Then slander will be considered as libel. It will be proved without any evidences. It is actionable per se. Come to point number three. If the defendant has made an imputation that makes an injury to the goodwill of the business of the plaintiff, such as charge of insolvency, then it will be considered as actionable per se. Suppose you are a trader, you are a businessman, but the defendant says something that you are insolvent. So obviously such words makes an injury to your reputation, to the goodwill of your business. So obviously then slander will be considered as liable and it will be actionable per se. Point number four, an imputation of unchastity against a woman is considered as actionable per se. So obviously, if you makes an injury to the character, to the reputation of a gentle lady, then obviously it will be considered as a heinous crime. Then such type of slander will be considered as actionable per se. Okay. Now come to the conditions of defamation. The chapter is very simple. Defamation is a very simple chapter. The conditions for defamation. What are the conditions? In order for constitution of a wrong of defamation, whether for libel or slander, four distinct factors must be considered. What are the conditions? Point number one, there must be a defamatory statement. The plaintiff has to prove that the statement is defamatory and it has a tendency to injure a person's reputation. The taste of defamatory nature of a statement is its tendency to excite against the plaintiff the adverse opinion or feelings of others, such as hatred, contempt, etc. etc. In the case of Capital Bank versus Henty in the year 1897, the English Common Law Court observed that the statement is defamatory if, under the circumstances in which the writing was published, reasonable men to whom the publication was made would be likely to understand it in a libellous sense. In the case of Sim versus Stress in the year 1936, the common law court observed that the expression reasonable man has been interpreted to mean the right thinking members of the society. In the case of Morris versus Sanders Products 1954, the court observed that the determining whether the words are capable of a defamatory meaning, the judge will interpret the words according to fair and natural meaning, which would be given them by reasonable persons of ordinary intelligence. Now, you have to understand 2 points very clearly. What the law says? That you must be a man of ordinary prudence. You must be a reasonable man. What the in different cases English common law court says that you must be a man of a reasonable man. What is the meaning of the term reasonable man? A man of ordinary prudence, who can understand the gravity of injury to right to reputation. If there is a creation of hatred, any adverse feelings through any defamatory statement, then obviously court will consider it as a defamation. But if there is no creation of such adverse feelings among the other members of the society, other reasonable members of the society, then obviously it will not considered as defamation. Point number 2, reference to plaintiff. Obviously, your defamatory statement must be referred particularly to the plaintiff. If you say, for example, all students of the college, they are innocent. If you say all lawyers are not good, this is not a defamatory statement, because there is no specific mention of the plaintiff. So, in case of constitution of the wrong of a defamation, you have to mention the plaintiff. Your statement must refer, must injure particularly the right to reputation of the plaintiff. Come to the third point, publication by defendant. No civil action lies if the defamatory words are communicated only to the person spoken of, and there must be communication at least to one third person. What it says? There must be a communication of your defamatory statement to the third person, at least one third person. If you send a letter through registered post and the plaintiff opens the letter and say, okay, these and these are the defamatory statement, this is not defamation. What the jurist says, there must be the communication of your defamatory statement to the other members of the society, other members of the community. So they say that it must be communicated to the other members of the society. And the fourth point, absence of lawful justification. The plaintiff has to prove that such defamatory statement has been made without any lawful justification. Obviously, if you are walking on the road, you are a very gentleman. You are a very gentleman. And one Mr. X says to you, oh, a scoundrel is going, a nonsense is going on the road. Then obviously such statement has been made without any lawful justification. So if it is made without any lawful justification, so it will be considered as defamation. Okay, in the next class we will discuss about the defenses for defamation.